Good afternoon, everyone. This is the Freelance Teacher videocast again. I hope everything's going well for you. I use the quote and the title for this videocast, "What would you do if you weren't afraid?" For a couple of reasons. One is I like it. The other one is it's a quote up on the wall of the many quotes that I have up on my classroom there that I have up there just for, the large numbers of absent-minded students who are maybe bored to tears by what I'm talking about, and they look up at the wall. And you know how you used to read the posters in your class and read the things that are on the wall rather than pay attention to the teacher? Well, I've got what I think are profound quotes up there, and one of them is, "What would you do if you weren't afraid?" And I stole that from code.org. They have a YouTube channel, and they were showing like a workplace, an office setting, and gigantic letters on the wall that said, "What would you do if you weren't afraid?" And that stuck with me because, everyone is afraid to start their business, or to start a podcast, or to get a haircut, or to quit something where they're miserable and try to start fresh. Taking risks is scary. And so what would you do if you weren't afraid is a great question, because you can really open some doors personally as to what you might want to do with yourself or with your life, but you're afraid to do so for various reasons. I'm afraid to quit my job because I make good money doing it. I have all kinds of job security as a tenured teacher, and what would I do for income? How would I replace my salary? I'm afraid. I like it. I don't know how much longer I can do what I'm doing. I enjoy I enjoy working with people. People think that I like young people, and that's not really true at all. I like people, fully formed people who can think for themselves and can converse well. Intellectually curious people are a joy to be around, and some of them are high school freshmen in my 130 freshman charge that I have this year. But the other thing I'm bringing up with "What would you do if you weren't afraid?" is that you should at least dip your toe in the water and try to do some things that you might not otherwise do because of fear. And I say that I'm returning from a wake of a colleague, and so this guy Jim died on April 30th, and he and his wife worked with me when I started at the high school at Mount Vernon, and they're great people, and one thing that they never lost, and I use this as an example. This is not these people died and they wasted their time. This isn't that videocast. This is the videocast where these two people, Jim and his wife, did the things that they wanted to do. Right? They explored the literature and they traveled. They went around the planet, and I remember they would pick an author like Charles Dickens or Jane Eyre or somebody, and they would say, "Well, you know what? Now that I'm retired, I don't have to wake up in the morning and go to work. I'm going to read everything that Charles Dickens wrote." And Dickens you can't, because I just found out today that there's so many things that he partially wrote and didn't write, and they find things posthumously, and it's I got to look this up, but it's apparently impossible to read everything that Charles Dickens wrote, which is amazing to think about. But pick up Great Expectations or Tale of Two Cities, and you see the guy could write and write a lot. So I guess it is somewhat possible. But the idea of taking risks and doing the things that you're afraid of is more keyed than ever. Now, here's the thing that I'm guessing 10 or 15% of young people will take the advice. I know I didn't, unfortunately, but the older people who are telling these young folks, like I'll tell teenagers and the teenagers listening to this or listening to me at work, at school, here's the older person telling us to the usual platitudes: grab life by the horns, and live life to the fullest, and all this kind of stuff. Okay, whatever. But the younger folks who do that, and if they're more fearless and willing to take risks, I know it will lead to a fuller life. So though, you know, and you read about captains of industry or people who are well off, either they're monetarily well off or spiritually well off, or they have these amazing, well-rounded lives. They were either forced to do something, they got fired from a job, or they got kicked out of school or something like that, and they had to go out on their own, or they decided, you know, the way I'm going about things and the way my life is heading is not acceptable, and I'm going to make a change. And I'll figure it out, and it will be rough, but I will get through it. So, you know, all of these things, these confluence of events happened, and it really just gives a credence to the idea that you really should do things that are risky. And if you're not okay with something, make a change, and you're going to need to kind of go along the edge and look down for a while and see what you can and can't handle if you're at a place and you need to make a switch. And this wake, you know, I saw a lot of people who were retired, and great people, and people have retired from teaching, and they're now traveling and they're doing amazing things. And maybe some of that could have gotten started early, or should have. Maybe it was, rather than, you know, teach for 20, 25, 30, 35 years, maybe it was not do that and do something else, and have go on a different path and do some of those things that you were looking forward to doing, but rather, instead of traveling when you're 63, travel when you're 43. How about that? So the idea of doing something and getting through your fear is very key. And you really get one chance, right? You get a life to figure it out. And you really do need to think about it carefully. And if you can answer that question, what would you do if you weren't afraid? See what you can figure out and try to move heaven and earth to do the thing that you would do, but not for your fears. So that's the quote. That's the kind of things that's going on through my head today. What's going on in your mind? Leave a comment below. This is The Freelance Teacher. I'm Doug Marola, thefreelanceteacher.com, and I'll talk to you next time. Have a good afternoon.